Good.
It's recording. It is. Thank you.
Just stand right in the center.
No, I hate it when you're But Mackenzie's not going to be in it.
Kainani, walk around a little bit and see what it does.
Yeah, it's following. If you're
You're going to have to walk around so we're both.
Really, I have to walk around.
Or I could just stand in the center.
Oh, my I'll just, no, I'll walk. I'll be like, and here's the... Wait, Raelyn's next. Oh, okay.
Ready?
Wait, was it recorded? No, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Perspective and knowledge. Our RLS was when Tati Westbrook released a YouTube video about James Charles after James Charles supported someone else's hair care vitamins. She got upset and claimed that he tried to get at a bunch of straight men, and even though they were straight, he wanted them to be gay. Issues raised. Perspective was raised because it's being told from every story has two sides, and Tati saw it one way and James Charles claimed that some of the stuff she said didn't actually happen. And then reliability is raised because you don't know who's more reliable, you don't know who to believe when they're both saying different things. And then interpretation, people can take the information in different ways.
So our knowledge question from this RLS is to what extent does perspective hinder your knowledge? And we got to this question because we thought of the different perspectives, like Raelyn said, between Tati and James Charles, their take of the situation. So it also hinders not only their knowledge but also the audience's knowledge based on what they talk about, and based on their perspective of it. It changes. Their knowledge is different between each other's. Therefore, James Charles has one perspective of the view and has only knowledge on his side, whereas Tati Westbrook would be the opposite, which can also impact the audience's knowledge as well. And our claim from our knowledge question is that perspective does hinder knowledge, and it does make an impact on how knowledgeable you are on a certain topic, or what your knowledge would include within that topic.
So our second RLS was that it was from a website. The Southerners argued that owning slaves was justified because it helped the economy, and they said that since it helped the economy, it was okay. Whereas now people obviously see slavery as unethical.
Our counterclaim is when Chris Brown beat Rihanna, he punched her and bit her. This is a counterclaim because our claim is saying that perspective does hinder knowledge, but here, no matter what perspective people were on, none of them thought it was okay that he hit Rihanna, because I think everyone thinks that beating women is bad.
For the rebuttal, so historical era perspectives, for older people, they have a different perspective because they grew up in a different generation and they have more experience, where younger people obviously are in a different generation and have less experience and knowledge.
And our mini conclusion for the RLS of the slavery and the perspectives of the slave owners in the South during that time was that they were two different ones, which also relates to the Tati and James Charles situation, because the slave owners did think that they had the right, and it was an economic solution to their situation. They had that perspective, whereas the slaves themselves during that time didn't think so and had an opposite perspective. Therefore, their knowledge was different, which is similar to the James Charles and Tati Westbrook scandal, since they both thought different things. And because Tati Westbrook thought that it was unethical for James Charles to support someone else, even though they have such a good relationship, her knowledge is different than James Charles because he didn't see it as badly and he saw it a different way and took it a different way. Therefore, their bias and their perspective hindered their knowledge and changed their perspective and everything on the whole situation.
So our new RLS for the new
Yeah, our second development has to do with art, and it's actually Kendrick Lamar's song called All Right. It is basically about police brutality and things that he has experienced, and Fox News reporters kind of bashed it after he did a performance of it on a like a music award show because of the words that he was, like the language he was using, and because of he was standing on top of a cop car.
However, there's certain situations where your perspective won't exactly hinder your knowledge the same way. For example, the Notre Dame, which was burned down recently in April 15th of this year, and it was set on fire. The reason why the perspective of it wouldn't exactly hinder your knowledge is because the majority of the people and almost everyone thought that the burning down of the Notre Dame was like devastating and was very tragic. Therefore, everyone's perspective kind of was the same, and everyone's knowledge was the same on how it kind of went down. Therefore, they were all just devastated because it was such a big historical monument to the art history and just the historical monument in general, since it took so long to build and because it was up for so long.
For the rebuttal, there's Catholic versus atheist. So the perspective hinders their knowledge because Catholic people tend to believe that the Bible is fact and that's what they know, whereas an atheist person doesn't believe the Bible to be fact, so it affects their knowledge.
So overall, yet again, our claim is that perspective does hinder your knowledge, and this was seen in all of our RLSs except for the Notre Dame one, which kind of was our counterclaim and our rebuttal. So basically, there's going to be differences in perspective which can change your knowledge and kind of reform your knowledge into going with that perspective, because you're kind of one-sided into one thing, and because you think that one way, you have only knowledge about that one way instead of both, which can also be seen in Pangea. So many people during the time thought that one landmass kind of was all the continents squished together, but others thought that it never was like that and it was always separated, which also shows that their different perspectives changed their knowledge on what would actually happen during that historical time and how all the continents either were already there or whether they drifted away to form what it is now. Which also brings up a new question that we have, that without perspectives, how can shared knowledge be expanded? So if you only had that one perspective, how can you gain more knowledge? If you don't think about the other side, or if you don't think about other perspectives, your knowledge will only stay confined to one spot and will only have that one perspective rather than all the other ones, which is also related to the Tati Westbrook and James Charles situation. In the very beginning, they both were very confined to only their side of the situation and always thought that they were right. But once they started talking about it more and kind of thought about the other side's perspective, their knowledge expanded and they gained more knowledge about both sides, and therefore more of a solution was able to be produced out of everything, and they had a shared knowledge about the whole situation, which kind of eased their relationship a little bit more. Therefore, your perspective does hinder your knowledge, but also without perspective, your shared knowledge won't be as expanded and won't be as great, which won't help you with certain topics and situations.
Questions or comments, anyone?
Negative.
Real quick, the initial RLS, I don't pay attention to a lot of that, so what exactly were the two perspectives?
So James, they're both big makeup YouTubers, and what happened is that Tati Westbrook owns a vitamin company that helps with skin and hair products, and she has a really good relationship with James Charles. However, James Charles,
the gentleman in the picture?
Yeah. However, he went to this festival and he supported another vitamin company, and so she took it a bad way and she started to spread other things about him that was true, but he denied it because he didn't think that it was a bad situation in which he did anything wrong.
Thanks.